Every child will have a hot, healthy and free lunch for their first 3 years at school. That's what the government promised last year, but many schools in England are struggling to meet that demand, and the reason is a lack of facilities, according to a BBC investigation. At least 2,700 schools need to upgrade their kitchens. Some need more work than others, but that's around 1/3 of all those assessed. And more than 1,700 have no kitchens at all. Here's Alex Forsyth.
Lunchtime at this school in Dorset, a chance to refuel with some favourites.
Crisps, strawberries and other things. Apples.
You like apples? They're very healthy.
From September, these packed lunches should be replaced with hot meals. That's what schools in England will be expected to offer all infants for free. But that won't happen here. The dining hall and kitchen are too small to cook and serve hot food, and there's a funding issue too.
Certainly a school like us and other schools in our area need people to actually serve the food. We're talking about children who can be young as 4 walking around with trays of food, which they need supervision, and that costs money, unfortunately.
This is what pupils will get instead, pre-packed sandwiches. Still free, but not the hot food that was promised by the government. In fact, many schools say they don't currently have the facilities to provide that.
The Department for Education has allocated £150 million of funding for schools to improve their dining halls and their kitchens. But the money's been allocated according to how many pupils are in each area, not on what schools need. So some regions have more than they require. In others, the funding falls short.
Teachers welcome the investment in improving children's diets.
What's happened to the eggs?
It's white.
But there's concern from some the policy's been rushed through. Come September, some schools will rely on external caterers. Others will lengthen lunch hours to seat pupils in small halls in turn. Despite the challenges, ministers insist the scheme will work.
We took a long time to get the figures right, to make sure the implementation was right, and I'm very confident that we will deliver the policy on time and on budget in September 2014, and I think it'll be seen as very positive both for pupils and parents.
That's certainly the view of parents at this London primary school, which already offers meals to all pupils.
I think it's good because a lot of children don't get like meals, do they, of an evening or even a breakfast?
All children should be fed for free rather than poverty.
While there's broad support for the principle of free meals for young pupils, critics say there's been little thought for the practical requirements of rolling it out across England. Most schools will deliver, but for some, it's proving a struggle. Alex Forsyth, BBC News.
Well, with me now is Nicole Rothband, the paediatric dietitian and former dietitian for schools. Thanks very much indeed for coming in. It's good to see you. You saw there that some schools are going to struggle providing hot meals under this policy. How much of a problem will that be?
I think it depends on the individual school. I think there will be issues for some schools, but I believe there is quite a good package of support available. I know the School Food Plan and the Children's Food Trust, School Food Trust, are trying to provide as much support as possible, and there are networks that schools can tap into so that they can learn from the good practice of schools that are already prepared to be able to provide the school lunches on time.
But if it's the difference between a hot meal and a packed lunch, which would you prefer?
Well, I think as long as they're nutritionally balanced, both are good, providing it is a good source of nutrition that's being offered. I think historically some parents have struggled to provide a good nutritionally balanced packed lunch for their children, and a Kit Kat and a packet of crisps is not really the sort of food that's going to see a child through to the end of the day, and they will go home extremely hungry. So I think a hot meal would be ideal, but a packed lunch in the interim, if it's nutritionally balanced, is a good option. It's a good alternative if that's required.
If that's required. So the pressure's really got to be on the schools to make sure that they get the lunch right if they don't have a kitchen that can provide a hot meal.
Absolutely they do. They can use outside caterers to help them do that. There are plenty of resources on the Children's School Food Trust website that can help them get it right. A hot meal would be the ideal because there are other benefits apart from nutritional benefits to providing an opportunity, particularly for deprived children who may not be getting a hot meal at all during the day, to be able to get a really good, well-balanced meal inside them at least 5 days a week while schools are in session. And they can learn to eat with their peers. Some of them may not have the skills to use a knife and fork, and that's an opportunity for them to learn that. Some of them may have an opportunity to try foods that they've never tried before. For instance, oily fish is one of the things that schools have to provide, and children may not be given the opportunity to have oily fish because parents on strict and tight budgets may not want to go out and buy oily fish and spend the money trying something that they're worried that their child might end up not eating.
Very interesting. OK, Nicole Rothband, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Much more coming up here on the BBC News at 9, but now it's time for a look at all the weather news. Here's Nina Ridge.